I have. What order do you want to take them in, Mr. Chairman?
It is your choice.
Has anybody signed up to speak to these bills?
Only people who were to help you.
Okay.
Yeah. Department of Audits and Accounts is
Yeah.
it. The Department of Audits and Accounts was
Okay.
it. All right. Chairman Leverett, which one would you like to start with?
Which one is this one or this one? I can't remember.
Either, we'll do
Okay,
that.
all right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry to keep y'all waiting. I got my days mixed up. Why don't we just take them in the order in which they appear on the agenda?
1218.
So 1218, this was a bill that was passed last year. It was actually Representative Wade's bill because of a situation he had in his district where an executor was appointed. And as part of that process, all the heirs were notified, but none of the heirs were beneficiaries. And so once the executor was appointed, none of the beneficiaries were aware that there was an estate of which they were beneficiaries, and the executor apparently absconded with all the money. And so we tried to institute, or Representative Wade did try to institute a notice process where the beneficiaries would be notified. The idea being that would hopefully lessen the likelihood of that scenario occurring again. So like many good intentions, we structured it in a way that ended up not to be quite as to have as great a utility in the real world or to be as easily administered in the real world by probate judges. So the fiduciary section liked the general concept, but thought that concept could be restructured in a way that was more efficacious and also had more teeth. So what they've done here is, we've stricken large parts of the bill or of the law as it currently exists, and just provided that the representative has the duty to notify beneficiaries unless, of course, they can consent and waive that right. And then if the representative fails to do so without sufficient cause, that's down in line 39, within 5 days of a request by the beneficiary or by the court, then they could be cited to appear and could have their letters revoked. And then we have a special provision here for if there is a trust as to whom the notice can be given to with respect to the trust. So we've tried to take, I think as the law was previously, the judge had to issue that notice, and I think the probate judges felt like it was not really their place to do that they were sort of uncomfortable with the notion of having to perform that duty. So this puts the burden back on the personal representative, but allows the probate court to kind of monitor and enforce that as well. So I think that's basically the gist of the bill. It was just, I hate to use the word cleanup because that gets uttered in circumstances where it is not a completely accurate statement, but that is largely what this is. And it's also a desire, I think, to make some substantive changes that try to further the intent of the bill without some of the logistical problems we had previously.
Always helps to give us a year to look at it.
Well, as they say that, what's the answer to the question, why do we meet each every year? To fix the things we messed up the year before.
That's right. That's right. All right. Any questions by the committee?
And I should say, Mr. Chairman, the fiduciary section supports the adoption of the bill.
All right. Let's see. I don't have anybody here to speak on that. What's the will of the committee?
You pass.
All right, motion, I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of passage, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, bill passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe the next one is 1247.
Yes, sir.
That is the transfer on death deeds. This is a bill actually that I should credit Representative Lim. Marvin Lim filed this initially a few years ago. The Speaker Pro Tem brought it to my attention as a possible alternative for a lot of families who might not have a lot of money to spend on estate planning and complex estate planning matters, but do own a home and want to make sure that they have a way to provide for the disposition of the home at death. So it's somewhat like, for those of you who practice in the area, it's like reserving a life estate and conveying a remainder, but reserving some powers of sale and the ability to terminate the remainder interest. And to make it subject to sort of a reversion or reverter. But it provides a statutory framework. It actually provides a statutory form that could be used by lay people or financial advisors to provide to lay persons, so they could designate a beneficiary of certain property, and then they can also, there's a provision for them to change that designation. That's always the thing I've always cautioned people when they talk about just conveying a home to their children. Once you convey it, you can't get it back unless children say you get it back. So this actually does preserve a right to at least change that designation. So it's I had not had a chance to talk to Representative Lim about the source of the original statute that he found. I know some states do provide for this statutorily, some provide for it by judicial decision, but we just felt like this was a good sort of consumer-friendly alternative that wouldn't cut into the estate bar's pockets too hard, and would be allowing some folks who probably aren't able to afford legal counsel in these matters to still make these dispositions to simplify their estates and make things a little better on their families after they're gone.
The one thing I kept missing on this was, how is this better than a life estate? Because we could already do that, but this apparently is a lot more flexible is what.
I think that's a good characterization, Mr. Chairman. It is a little more flexible. It's got some things sort of baked into the statute that you can do without having to, show off your, trust and estates drafting skills on real estate deeds, and so I think it's more flexible. It's a little more accessible. It makes this a little more accessible to the public as well.
Right.
And it also provides some sort of, I guess I would call user-friendly provisions where if you do want to make a change, it's fairly easy to do it. Whereas a lot of times in conveyancing and trusts, it is not terribly easy to make changes, or at least not inexpensive.
All right.
Just a quick question. I think this is a great bill, and I love that it's consumer friendly, and I think it's going to save a lot of people a lot of heartache and a lot of money. But I was just curious that if, say, you have 3 beneficiaries or heirs under a will that is left, and they, of course, there's a transfer of deed of the home, the family home, on death, and this all occurs. Do they have the right to jointly sell the property if one can't buy out the others or what have you?
You mean the beneficiaries after death? Yes, after death, I think their ownership is just as if it had been conveyed to them.
Okay.
Or just
Okay,
as
great.
if the remainder, the remainder interest, I guess, vests upon transfer, but just as the life estate had been eliminated, they have all those rights that any
Okay,
owner
great.
would
Okay. Super.
don't have. There is one provision I would point out that I noted, if it made it in here, that you cannot revoke your transfer on death deed by will. And I think the reason for that is generally, for example, if property is conveyed to 2 people as joint tenants, you can't change that designation by something in your will. It's the same kind of principle, I think. First, that caused me some concern, but I think it's frankly the best way to structure it. Otherwise, it would bring some uncertainty into the transfers
for sure.
on record. But thank you for that question.
All right. I don't see anybody signed up to speak on the bill. That isn't for this.
I would add, Mr. Chairman, I think the Realtors Association is very enthusiastic. They're a little more enthusiastic about the affordable housing or the housing bill that's pending in government affairs right now. So I'm assuming that's why they aren't here.
So what is this?
Scrivener's error for this bill.
Yeah, this one, I think there's some typos that
All right. Yeah.
if you can just
help me with that, because I was looking at it and I couldn't find it on line 42.
let's see.
So in the bill.
Or maybe I was looking at a different document. That's what it was. Okay, got it.
Yeah,
There are 2 beneficiaries
Yeah, the word beneficiary got started there in the middle of the line 42, and then it stopped, and then the word beneficiary appears, I believe. It's supposed to be beneficiary or beneficiaries.
Okay.
Then there's also, I believe, a need for a correction on 108, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, the word shall not be appear there in 108. It should be shall not be required.
Okay. That'll be amendment number 2.
Then there's apparently some English usage errors involving Oxford commas and that sort of thing, which actually are, yeah, they are actually of interest to those who read books like Between You and Me and Eat Shoots and Leaves. But I'll share those with people offline.
All right.
If you're a grammar geek, you might find it of interest.
All right. Judge Scoggins?
At the proper time, make a motion.
This probably is it, because I don't see any other questions.
Okay, motion do pass.
All right, motion and a second. And we have a couple of amendments. Line 42, I think, is amendment number 1, with adding Y to beneficiary and or after that, to make it read beneficiary or beneficiaries, right? Or we need to change that to multiple on the second one,
Yes, sir.
IES.
I think it might be simpler to say we're just striking the non-word beneficiar and then adding or beneficiaries after beneficiary.
Okay.
Beneficiar may be a word in some language. I'm just not
I'm
aware.
sure it is somewhere.
I don't think it's one in English anyway.
We might start making it one here.
Yeah.
Okay. Any motion for that amendment? You have a question?
So moved.
Oh, so moved. All right. And a second. All right. All those in favor of that amendment say aye. Any opposed? All right. Then we go to amendment number 2.
It's
which
line
is on
108.
And add the word required at the end of that sentence.
After the be and before the
After-
period,
Yeah,
as they say.
after the period. Yeah. All right.
So moved.
So move. Second. Got it. All right. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right. Any further discussion on the bill? Seeing none, all those in favor of the passage of this bill say aye. Any opposed? All right. Bill's on.
Thank you.
That takes us to 1251.
As they used to say in the KTEL ads, Mr. Chairman, but wait, there's more. So 1251 and actually the 1042 are sort of products of the judicial compensation bill, which this committee very kindly recommended do pass, I think a week or two ago, and which was moved off the floor last week. So thank you, everybody, for that. The first one, 1251, was brought to my attention by the state auditor. Apparently, the state auditor is still required to review and process requests for travel expense reimbursement by Superior Court judges. And at the time that sort of system was set up, I think in the 40s, that made sense. But since that time, the Council of Superior Court Judges has been created, and it would make more sense for them to serve that function. I think it's also a sort of efficiency in government move to do that, because according to the auditor, well, he did not say this, but my assumption would be he doesn't even really know exactly who all the judges are. He certainly doesn't have the information that he would need to assess the validity of a request for a reimbursement request. The Council of Superior Court Judges does. So when they get a request, they reach out to the council, get the information they need, assemble it, process the request, and submit it to the council for reimbursement. then the auditor keeps a copy of all that, and the council keeps a copy of all that. So it's just it's an unduly arduous process. If the council did it, it would be much more efficient and direct, because they generally would have the information to know. So what the auditor requested was that arrangement be changed to the council Superior Court judges. And my understanding is the council is willing to take on that task, as they're the ones who I think who could most efficiently perform it. So the changes you have on the bill are to the code section that assigns to the auditor that task, and we simplify it a little bit and just add that it's that the council actually performs the task of reviewing, approving, and processing the reimbursement, and they don't split that duty with the auditor anymore.
Okay. I see no questions from the committee. We do have someone that wants to speak on this. A couple of folks. Is it Carol Schwein? Did I actually say that? Schwein? All right. And is Greg Griffin coming with you, or? Okay. Is he here?
I believe he's in another committee meeting right now.
Okay, that's fine. Come on up.
So he sent me.
You can go right there. And Mr. Chairman Leverett, I've turned yours on as well.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Carol Schwinney, and I'm a director with the Department of Audits and Accounts. And first of all, I would like to thank Chairman Leverett for bringing this bill to your attention, and for you all giving some consideration to this. He did a great job explaining it, so I don't really have too much to add. I just wanted to mention that we are in support of this change. The only other thing that I would like to add, in addition to this being really part of the Superior Court Council's mandate, because part of their mandate is to handle the financial functions of the Superior Courts. So we feel like the managing and processing, reviewing, processing, and the travel is part of the financial functions of that organization. But really, requiring us to do this is really contradictory to the standards that we apply in our audits. We're required to be independent of the clients that we audit, and if we are involved in management activities or management decisions with any of those clients, that's hampering the independence that we have with the clients that we audit, whether it's a financial audit or a performance audit. So we feel like, we're kind of not really applying that standard as we should be in accordance with our audits. So in addition to the fact that there is a lot of repetition, and the fact that we feel like this is a financial function that is part of the mandate of the Superior Court Council, the Council of Superior Court Judges, and because of the lack of independence that this brings, we ask that you look at this favorably.
Okay, all right. Don't see any questions. So what's the mood of the committee? All right. Motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the bill say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Bill passes.
Thank you.
All right.
Sure. Thank you, Carol.
Okay. So this is your last one, 1042?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
All right, you're going to go back to that, Michael? Or?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There you go.
So this just a little background, if the committee might remember, the original judicial compensation bill as filed contained a fairly lengthy section that set up a commission on compensation, and we decided that might be a bit too ponderous, so we eliminated that from the substitute that the committee considered. This is kind of the response to that, or the substitute for that commission, is just to set up a joint study committee. So this would be both House and Senate, and the function would be to study, compensation for other officers within our judicial system. It would be other judges, district attorneys, public defenders, and while we populated the committee with legislators, there is a sort of a legislative encouragement that a lot of the other appropriate councils would participate, and we would seek their input. The Judicial Council, the Council of State Court Judges, the Council of Probate Court Judges, the Council of Magistrate Court Judges, Council of Juvenile Court Judges, the Prosecuting Attorneys Council, and the Georgia Public Defender Council, as well as local government officials and staff. So we're trying to get input from all of the actors in this sort of universe and all the folks who are involved in payment of those actors to try to come up with some recommendations and potentially have some additional legislation in a subsequent year. But we want to try to make sure, the first goal, I guess, is like a doctor, do no harm. So we just want to make sure we have complete information to do that. But and the reason this was not included in the judicial compensation bill is we're trying right now with that bill to focus on state employees, judges that are state employees. This would include officers who are, in some cases, county employees and that sort of thing.
Okay. Any questions by the committee? I don't see anybody that's signed up to talk on this one. So, all right. Do I hear a motion? Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Going off the rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, members of the committee. I appreciate y'all, especially given my inconsiderateness of not showing up.
All right.
when I
Now,
could have been here.
before I adjourn, just going to let the committee know that we're set to have another committee meeting Thursday afternoon. We have fewer bills than what we've had today, although I can't predict the length of those. I know that we'll probably have some testimony on at least two of them. You have,
I just wanted to tag on to the tail end that the Superior Court clerks will be here tomorrow and provide pita bread sandwiches.
Oh, okay, all right. For lunch?
For lunch.
For lunch. All right, we got lunch here tomorrow, guys. All right, so anyway, just wanted to notify you of that.
Next meeting is when, tomorrow?
No, Thursday. Thursday afternoon, depending on how long we go in session, it'll either be on adjournment or at 1 o'clock, whichever is later or earlier. Earlier. So. All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.